Hi, this is Walt Mossberg from the Wall Street Journal, and this week, for the second time in about a month, I want to talk to you about the advent of a really thin, light, mobile computer that manages to still retain a full-size screen and a full-size keyboard. Now, we first talked about this kind of new small and light notebook about a month ago when Apple brought out a machine called the MacBook Air, which it calls the world's thinnest laptop. It weighs about 3 pounds, it's extraordinarily thin, and it does have a 13-inch screen and a full-width keyboard. Next week, Lenovo, which makes the ThinkPad line of Windows laptops, is moving into that same kind of notebook category with a machine called the ThinkPad X300. It's not quite as thin as the Apple, and it is a bit heavier, but it is a fairly thin, fairly light notebook that, unlike a lot of the other sub-notebooks over the years, manages to have a full 13-inch screen and a full-width keyboard. And this is a great thing for frequent travelers, I think, whichever one of these you would buy, because it simultaneously reduces the load you have to carry while allowing you to have the experience you would expect to have with a much bigger and heavier notebook because of the bigger screen and the bigger keyboard. The other similarity between these two machines is that they both have a solid state drive, which we've talked about as well in the last month. That is a replacement for a hard disk that, instead of using moving parts, uses chips. It's faster and it's more rugged. It's also more expensive. So what's the difference between this new ThinkPad and the Apple? Well, there are a number of differences, in addition to the fact, of course, that the Apple uses the Mac Leopard operating system and the ThinkPad uses Windows XP or Windows Vista. The two biggest differences here are that because it is a bit thicker and a bit heavier, Lenovo was able to retain in this kind of a small machine a lot of the ports and connectivity options that road warriors have come to rely on, and which Apple in many cases decided to forego on the MacBook Air. For instance, the new ThinkPad X300 has an Ethernet jack. It has 3 USB ports instead of just one on the MacBook Air. It has built-in cell phone wireless modem, which the Mac does not. And it has a number of other options like that you're used to. It even has GPS. That's on the upside. On the downside, Lenovo has chosen to only offer the X300 with this solid state drive I was mentioning, and there are two problems with that. One is the solid state drive today is limited in capacity to 64 gigabytes, which is awfully small for a computer today, and it's extremely expensive. It can add up to $1,000 to what otherwise would be the cost of a laptop computer, at least the cost to a consumer. Apple, on the other hand, while they have that SSD and they do have the high price that goes along with it, they also offer a model with a regular hard disk that actually has more capacity and costs much less. So the cheapest ThinkPad X300 you can buy is around $2,500, and that's a stripped-down model with a half-size battery and no DVD drive. Because one of the great things about this ThinkPad, by the way, is that it has a DVD drive built in, and the Apple does not. But this $2,500 model doesn't have that DVD drive, and it only has a half-size battery. The model I think most people will buy, which has a full-size battery and a DVD drive, is around $3,000. Whereas you can get the hard disk model of the Mac with more storage capacity for about $1,800. Still, the ThinkPad is an impressive machine. It's very well done. It's a notable engineering achievement. One more thing that I would mention about it, however, is the battery life. Even though it has a removable battery, and the Apple does not, and even though I was testing the model with the full-size battery rather than the kind of entry-level model with the half-size battery, I found that it got weaker battery life in my tests than the Apple did. It got about 3 hours and 5 minutes in my test, where I turn off all the power-saving software and do a lot of other things to stress the battery. And the Apple got about 3 hours and 29 minutes in that test. I believe that in normal usage on the Apple, you could get about 4.5 hours. Here, you would get under 4 hours. Now, Lenovo also makes a model that can take two batteries, the full-size battery, and then in place of the DVD drive, another smaller battery. And that one got about 5 hours and 15 minutes on my test, which means you could probably get 6 and 7 hours, something like that, of normal use. And obviously, if you're willing to forego the DVD drive and you need that kind of battery life, that's clearly an option, and that's about a $2,900 machine. So the bottom line on the ThinkPad is, if you're a Windows user and you really value, as many people may, things like removable batteries, built-in DVDs, and all those extra ports, and if you have the budget and are willing to go with just the lower capacity SSD, this is really a well-done machine, and it may be right for you. This is Walt Mossberg, and I'll see you next week.